Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode, another commentary of the comedy web series You're My Best Friend. As you all know, I've been doing commentaries for the series itself, and recently, actually today, March 2nd, I just released the teaser for Season 2. And me and Paul actually have been rewriting Season 2, so season 2 of the series has actually been, kicking off with a huge ball of fire, if you will. So I'm really excited. I gave my thoughts on it on the last commentary I did, but overall I'm very optimistic about season 2. I really hope it's better than season 1, and I really hope we improve on the flaws of season 1, which I'll actually get into in this episode, which has a lot of flaws. But overall, today I'll be not reviewing, but commentating on, because I'm also, the creator, director, writer, and actor of the series. So who better yet to commentate on it than yours truly? But nevertheless, I'm here to just basically give you my commentary on the entire season 1, the first season, if you will, of the series. And if you've not checked it out, I'll definitely have a link. I'll have a couple of links in the description below where you get to watch the full episode with its original audio, and also a link to a playlist to the complete series in total. So you'll get to watch all 6 episodes. Nevertheless, You're My Best Friend is a comedy web series that we did a while back, and I personally had a fun time doing it. It's definitely, other than Halloween Night, the most fun I've ever had filming a project, so why not do more? Which is why we're doing Season 2. Nevertheless, today I'll be giving you my commentary on You're My Best Friend, Episode 2, Paul Gets Laid. Now, before I get into the actual commentary of this episode, I'll let everybody, link up so we can just, you can open up a new link, a new tab, if you will, to watch the actual episode. So we'll be in sync, in sync. I was gonna make an in-sync joke, but just forget it. I don't want to ruin the fun time that we're having just listening to me, which isn't really that fun at all, depending on your personal preference. But I guess it depends. Nevertheless, enough of my rambling. This episode is dedicated to Paul's desire to have sex at a monstrous rate. Paul is obsessed with sex, as most people in general, but I think the funny thing about Paul is that he takes it to an entirely different level of obsession, where it's because he doesn't get it enough, it's like the holy grail of things to do in a day. So he'll just do multiple things to get his mind off of it, or just do things to obviously make sure that that he's obsessed about it. And I thought, in the writing process of the project, why not just dedicate an entire episode of your obsession with sex and your desire to have sex right now? And it was the number 1 episode that I really was hoping it was going to be the best, but it really wasn't. Looking back at it and actually watching it just recently, it has a lot of flaws, which I'll get into. So, enough of my rambling. Let's get right into the commentating of You're My Best Friend, Episode 2, Paul Gets Laid. And we'll be watching it in 3, 2, 1. We're watching it. Okay. Of course, the episode opens up with a montage of Paul walking through the neighborhood, which was a huge problem at the time. I originally wanted the entire shot to be dollied, so it would have a good, smooth panning. But, God, it just was not working. We had just multiple shots. I think you saw it on the blooper reel that I put out post episode 2, so you get the general gist of, how many times we had to take on filming that one montage, which was hysterical. But at the end of the day, I just had to do it handheld, which I think was cool, but I'm not big on handheld, because as cool as it is for some shots, it doesn't work for everything, and it makes things too shaky, which really sucks. I'm not really big on shaky cams. It's not really a big thing for me. But anyways, now we're on to the shot where Paul basically breaks whatever's in sight in the the abandoned houses that are no longer existing. So yeah, this is kind of nostalgia, if you will. The houses do not exist anymore. And ironically enough, you see the hole on the wall right there. Paul actually made those holes. He actually punched holes into the wall. So, just saying. Like, Paul may be a big fat guy that I like to joke about, like in the Paulcast multiple times in our daily lives, but he can be a strong guy if he wants to. Like, see him right there. He's actually punching holes in the wall. So yeah. Nevertheless, originally, my original vision for this one sequence was that this entire thing that's happening right here would just be background noise, and it would be all out of focus, and up in focus would be a Godzilla statue. Hence the Godzilla theme song in the background, the Blue Oyster Cult Godzilla song. The purpose that it was there in the first place was so I would have that Godzilla in frame. But because before we went out to shoot this, I couldn't find the Godzilla statue. I had this Godzilla statue back in the 90s. It wasn't the movie version. It was the Japanese version. And I had it, but I couldn't find it. I lost it, and I think Paul took it. I think he stole it from me, but he doesn't want to tell me the truth. But nevertheless, I couldn't find it, and it's the number one thing I hate about this one sequence. It's like, I just really wanted that Godzilla scene. Like, it was just, it's not important, but it was something that I really, really wanted in that one sequence that would have made it cool and funny. Like, like, for me as an audience, I would look at that and be like, why the fuck is Godzilla there? Like, how is that? It would just be like a real weird, funny kind of thing just to show off in front of the camera while, some crazy fat guy is breaking shit in the background. It would just be funny. At least I think it would be funny. Anyways, we're in the intro. I already gave my thoughts on that in episode 1's commentary, and yeah. Basically, you're going to see a lot of inconsistencies, and I'm going to point them out, but I just want to make everyone I want everybody to remember this in perspective when I say this and point it out, that when we filmed this series, we did not film it chronologically. And I could be wrong about this, but we basically took an entire year, maybe an entire season, but just for the sake of exaggerating, an entire year of filming the entire first season. So, obviously, we look a lot different in between scenes. But you need to remember that when you're watching this, we filmed not one by one. We filmed a scene by scene. So, like, we would, as an example, we would film the opening of episode 1. And then we would go to episode 5 and film the outside scenes. And then we would go to episode 2 to do the opening. And we would just go back and forth like that. We would just do those types of things. And that's why we look drastically different. And of course, we took a lot of time off in between filming. So obviously, the filming schedule was really whacked and really crazy. Sorry about that. It was just one of those things that you can just tell. Like, here's a good inconsistency. My hair is very short. And in a few minutes from now, you're going to see the biggest inconsistency, which is how I look. Like, I obviously look a lot different from the beginning to end of this series itself. Like, which I think is the biggest inconsistency. That, obviously, because we took so much time in filming, that my hair was short in the beginning, but then got really long by the end. So that's kind of the big inconsistency that, generally you can point out very easily, which I'll do in a second. Right here, another inconsistency. Basically, Paul's in place, but when we filmed my shot, like here's the inconsistency. Obviously, I look back and forth, but because he's right there, it doesn't make sense. It's because when we filmed my shots, he was moving back and forth instead of staying in place where his spot's supposed to be. So, whenever I filmed my things, I would look back and forth when he was walking. So that's why it doesn't really make sense. And that's another kind of major inconsistency. I like shots like this. I think those are my favorite kind of shots of like Paul in focus, like really like up close in the camera. I think that's really, and I think that's when he does his funniest. Like here is like, yeah, no. I think that's his funniest bits. Like when he does stuff like that. When you ever see a close up of him and it's in focus, really, real good shot, and he's saying or doing something really funny, that's, I think, his best work. Here's another sequence that I looking back at it, I really don't like. It doesn't really make that much sense. I mean, in the writing of it, I thought it was funny when we were writing it, but I don't know, I really didn't like it. The fucking montage, which is 100% true. Paul actually humps things, inanimate objects, when he's extremely horny. When he's having a horny attack, he does this. He actually humps. Here's another inconsistency. Inconsistency number 3, if you will. My long hair. Obviously, you can tell that my hair is drastically longer than how it was in the beginning of the episode. So you can, well, actually just 5 minutes ago. It's kind of like if I grew like 5 seconds later. So yeah, that's kind of one of the big problems that we had with the series overall, was I look drastically different from scene to scene. And obviously that makes sense because, once again, as I mentioned prior, we had a very different, vague, lengthy filming schedule that took a long time. So that's why shit looks the way it looks. So, but overall, the number one funniest scene in season 1, the mirror scene. I don't know if it's the funniest, but okay, episode 2. Favorite freaking scene, the mirror scene. When we were writing this episode, this was the scene I was waiting to get to. Like, every time he would do something, I would just hide in the closet, just laughing my ass off. Like, I would just, like, let the cameras roll and just sit in the closet and laugh while he would just do the most ridiculous shit. And he would say some really ridiculous shit that we couldn't use. But it was just funny. I just love it when he's just, like... And we would rehearse this, and this was, like, just killing me. He would just, like, lean against the car and just be, like pretend he's talking to chicks and just be like, oh yeah, this is just my car. Yeah, I know, I drive. I get it. It's just so crazy. It's just so absurd and stupid. It's like, how is that impressing anybody? But to his character, he believes that would impress young women, young attractive women. But it just goes on and on and on. He's just, let's get that shit straight. We had to cut there because I was laughing my ass off right after he said that. The guns. Oh, God. I wish he did his Hulk Hogan impression. Oh, God. That's something that I think he does actually do that. Does he? I don't know. Right over here. Oh, yeah. Get that shit straight. Yeah. No, that he doesn't actually do it. He does the Macho Man thing, but he doesn't do the Hulk Hogan. Because there's a specific podcast that we did recently where he did a Hulk Hogan impression. It's like, the 22 fucking pythons. He did that impression. And I just really drastically wanted to use that again. I thought it was in here, but it's not. Well, here's another inconsistency in my hair. Obviously, it's so long that I had to put it in a ponytail. It's like I grow. It's like years are passing us by in between episodes. Not even in between episodes, like in between... like seconds. It's like 5 seconds ago I had short hair, and now I have really, really fucking long hair, like to the point it's in a ponytail. Look at that shit. I'm telling you, folks, it's not my fault. It's the filming schedule. Granted, I could have got a haircut, but I have a problem with haircuts. It's like, not to get too deep into my personal life, because this ain't a fucking podcast, it's a commentary, but basically, getting a haircut is pretty boring and stupid when you think about it realistically. But overall, yeah, these are the major inconsistencies. This entire sequence, this entire ending was actually the complete opposite of how it was written on film. And also, we had to do this really quickly because I think at this point in time, Paul was going to go home or something. Or I think my mother or father at the time were coming home, so we had to like finish this very quickly. So we kind of rushed this sequence, and you can really tell like this sequence, just this entire ending, just in general, feels very rushed. Like it just looks rushed, and it doesn't feel consistent with everything else that happened. Granted, all of episode 2 is not consistent, especially me. Like I look different. I'm like Matthew Perry or Luke Perry, whatever that fucker's name is from Friends, Chandler. I'm like Chandler from Friends. I look different from every fucking episode. It's like, Jesus, what did the drugs doing to me? But nevertheless, I wasn't taking drugs. I was just an asshole who didn't realize that my hair looked different in every fucking episode. Not to mention every fucking scene. But anyways, yeah, I just really don't like this episode for that kind of reason. And this ending I really don't like. It was meant to be a lot different on paper. Like on paper, the original idea was that, okay, yeah, I get Paul a chick so he can bang her and just leave me alone about it. That's the overall, synopsis of the ending of this episode. But basically, the original idea was that I would go buy a hooker, a prostitute, bring her over, and we would just film or, mime, if you will, Paul banging her. But we thought that would not work out. So we decided not to do that. We scrapped it. Okay, now we thought, okay, how about we just use, like, women screaming from, like, porn and just, like, dub that and mime that you're actually banging. And we thought, whatever, that's probably not going to work too. So we just came up with this bullshit ending. And it's the number one thing that I dislike about this episode. It's just, episode 2 was the episode that I was really hoping it was going to be great. It was a Paul Costa episode. That was what it was meant to be. But I don't know, like all of episode 2 was just crap. Like the only thing that I can look back watching it is as a commentator and as an audience member is that mirror scene. The mirror scene's my favorite part. I think it's the funniest. And also I like the scene where he's like, yes, no. It's, and Nirvana, the first Nirvana song, LMFAO. That band sucks. And the only reason I'm sexy and I know it, the only reason I use that song is because I knew it was stupid and funny. Like, I mentioned this in my last commentary that most of the music that was used on the series was basically used with a purpose. Most of the songs that I like were used with a purpose. Other songs that I personally think suck and are stupid also were used for a purpose. And that I'm sexy and I know it song is one of them. It's like, it's so stupid and dumb, but it's funny and works for that one scene. So that's why it worked. Which is another reason I really like that mirror scene. It's just fucking hysterical. But overall, this is the end of episode 2. So basically, this is the end of my commentary. I hope everyone has enjoyed themselves, got a little insight into the behind-the-scenes shit that was going down for, the overall series. Just keep in mind for everyone who was thinking like, oh, why is there so much inconsistency? Well, basically, our filming schedule was very, very lengthy, so it took a long time. But overall, I hope everyone enjoyed it, and I'll definitely be back for another commentary for episode 3, which I hope everybody enjoys. Definitely go check out my teaser for season 2, and check out the overall series on my channel. I'll have a link in the description. Hope you guys enjoyed. This has been Jonathan Peralta, aka John 12.